Hi there, guys. Figured it was well past due that we had another episode of Where Next to Conquer. This time I'm going to be taking a look at Trench Crusade. 40k has become a lot less grimdark than it was. Neutered, watered down, made to be more appealing to a younger audience. After all, they want to be shifting this to pre-teens. When I worked at GW, we used to say that nobody below the age of 12, 13 should be playing this kind of thing. We need to bear in mind that was 20 years ago now. Actually, Christ, nearly 25. But now it's very much been pushed, I think, towards younger kids, sort of 8, 9, I reckon, and up. With GW and 40k going that way, I thought I would focus on something that does look to be very, very grimdark. Now, originally I wasn't going to do Trench Crusade after looking into it because it's only 10 to 30 models. That's the maximum, and you start off with 10, so kind of more of a skirmish thing. But the level of grimdark in this is going to lead me to cover it anyway, and you're going to see that this is basically a very dark, very mature setting. And they say it's not for kids. This is a mature game with themes of gore, lots of death, hell, heaven, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to get into this and have a quick look at Trench Crusade. It's probably going to be a little bit longer video. It's been getting a lot of good attention, and recently it's been getting some bad attention. I'm going to talk about both. Yeah, we're going to have a good look at Trench Crusade. So here we go. So first of all, there's not that much information about Trench Crusade yet. It's coming out as a Kickstarter later in the year. There was a Kickstarter just by looks of things to do a small miniature run, but the proper Kickstarter is launching this year. There is a website. On there you will find some downloadable links that will give you a lore primer, playtest rules, quick start rules, and a roster sheet for the armies or the war bands. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the lore, and I'm going to put in bits of artwork all throughout this video so you can see that the artwork in this is absolutely sublime. It is dark, neo-Gothic kind of classical Renaissance art. It's really, really cool. So let's talk about the lore. So the whole idea is that basically the Crusade happens, so the actual Crusades, where they go and capture Jerusalem and all that. But what happens is the Templars are tempted or corrupted, and they open a gate to hell. Basically, for the next 800 years, shit is kicking off majorly between hell and heaven. So you've got the forces of hell, like the 9 circles of hell, trying to get onto Earth, and you've got all of this is happening with the development of man as it would mostly normally go. So where Trench Crusade is actually set is 800 years later in the First World War. You've basically got the First World War going on, but you've got a very religious Puritan versus heretical theme as a backdrop to the First World War. And because of some of the demonic materials and the holy blessed materials, armaments and the technology of the time, although not super different, is slightly altered. So you've still got things like trench rifles and things like that, and sniper rifles. Nobody's running around with sort of like laser guns or anything like that. But certainly some of the arm have got that very sort of almost like a medieval Gothic mix type thing. It's the kind of thing that honestly would not be amiss in 40k. And as I say, I'll be putting loads of artwork up in this video. So yeah, you've got your different factions. You've basically got your Principality of New Antioch. So these are kind of the good guys, I guess. They have got, so you've got trench pilgrims, which are just basically like World War I troopers, slightly changed, but they've got like trench coats and things like that, and ammo packs and rifles. You've got something called observers, which have these helmets put on that allows them to listen to the voice of God, but it sort of drives them a little bit mental. So they have to do sort of like take loads of mind bending drugs and things like that to withstand the voice of God. Paladins, which are these giant 17-foot tall armoured behemoths. You've got shrine anchorites, which are basically dreadnoughts. You've got like a monk inside there. It's like an Iron Maiden, so there's spikes on the inside to eternally torment them. This is proper grimdark stuff. I don't think GW would touch to this level these days. The Sisters Battle Codex is still a half decent read, but GW very much leans away from the torture and any suffering and all that kind of stuff. I mean, even look at the Slanesh these days. It's not really, I'm talking about the whole torture side of it. Something like the Infernal Enchantress, you're never going to see that again. A demon playing the harp with dude's back sinews, never going to see that again. It's just not going to happen. That whole Cenobite kind of idea, it's just gone. It's not what they want for their wide audience. This, on the other hand, looks really cool. When you get down to the heretics, So obviously the heretic legions, you've got these really cool guys, choristers, that cut off their own heads and then the blood comes out of their neck and forms these sigils and stuff like that. Now, I do question how the hell you can do that in a miniature form, but it's some really cool lore. And the lore is well thought out. I recommend you have a look at the primer, and I'll put links to all of these in the video. Honest. I've also got the Cult of the Black Grail, which is basically Nurgle. If Nurgle wasn't all happy and jolly, this is like, this is seriously fucked up stuff. The Heralds of Beelzebub, humans that are mutating into flies. It's all very sort of Nurgle, but with a kind of a religious thing on top of it. And then you've got the Iron Sultanates, which are like Janissaries, and it's kind of like a sort of Turkish Arabian kind of thing going on, I suppose, like Syria maybe. And yeah, there's just all sorts of really, really cool stuff in here. It's good versus evil. The religious guys are kind of dicks, don't get me wrong, but it's in an Imperium kind of way. It's like the suffering and stuff is needed to fight for God. And I'm not a religious person. I've got no dog in this fight as far as theology goes. I think it's just a cool setting. So I would thoroughly recommend checking out the lore primer. It's very cool. There's more than I would have thought, but obviously a lot short of what you would get in the full book, which I assume will be coming with the Kickstarter. So the rules have been done by a certain Tuomas Pirinen. And if you don't know who that is, I feel sorry for you. Tuomas Pirinen basically did Mordheim, that loved and legendary game that GW have never gone back to since. And he also did, I think it was Warhammer Fantasy Battle 6th edition. He was part of GW's golden age. And now he's doing the game design on this, and I've to check the rules out because the full playtest rules are on here. And yeah, they look pretty solid. It's very different to 40k. It's a alternate action system, which straight away has me going like, yes.
Yes! Yes!
You have between 10 and 30 models, so it's not a massive game, but obviously some of those are going to be big things like these anchorite things, these dreadnought things. I don't think there's any tanks or anything like that in it. I think large infantry monster models is about as big as it goes. Whether or not there's going to be any development on that in the future, I have no idea. I am hoping to make contact with Tuomas and maybe have a chat with him or something about this, because this does look cool and I am fairly excited about it. And one of the things I really like about this, actually, before I get into the rules proper, is this is reminiscent of early GW in more than just the grimdark kind of nature. They also say, like, we don't care what models you use. We just want you to play our game, get in this universe, have fun, get involved. So they're not saying, you've got to use these models and you've got to use this and you've got to use that. I like that. I like that approach. There's a good vibe to it. Let's put it that way. It's a D6 system and it's based around actions, and it is quite cool because you can do as many actions as you like. Well, you can't do any action more than once. You could move, shoot, climb and charge all in one turn, which is quite cool. What you do is you roll a test to see if you do the action. So 2d6 you roll and you have to see whether or not you beat the number required. So say for example test requires an 8, you roll 2d6. If you get 8 or more you pass. If you for under 8 then you fail. A pretty simple system. You've got a way that you can modify the dice, so you can either add dice or take away dice, and dependent on whether you have added to the dice or taken away from the dice is dependent on whether you pick the lowest numbers and the highest numbers. It's very much worthwhile trying to get modifiers on that to try and make sure that you hit. Say for example you've got 3 plus dice and 2 minus dice, you'd end up with 1 plus dice because you remove pairs until you've got 1 left, and then that affects which way the test is going to go. You basically roll to hit, roll to see what you do. Armor, rather than being an armor save, it just modifies the dice. So that's quite a clean system. Taking a test every time you want to do an action could slow down a game down a little bit, but with only 10 to 30 models, I don't think it's going to be too bad. Another really cool system that it includes is risky actions. So movement and charging you don't have to test for. You just get to do those. The charging is just a d6 plus your speed. So pretty much I think the way that Heresy does it, and the risky actions, if you fail them, your activation ends. So you're basically passing the turn to your opponent. But another cool system I really wanted to mention quickly was the blood markers. When you get wounded, you get blood markers, and then your opponent can use those to influence future dice. And in the same way, there's blessing markers, which you can use to try and make actions more successful. So, that's a pretty cool little system. You've got full terrain rules in here, falling from height, got injury charts, a bit like Necromunda. You can go sort of, you can take a minor hit where you get a blood marker, you can go down, like in Necromunda, or you can go out of action and the model's taken off. So again, this is why I wasn't necessarily going to do it, because it's almost more of a skirmish thing than 40k, but I think the Grimdark makes it worth it. It's got keyword systems, it's got a morale system. Yeah, I like look at the rules quite a bit, to be honest. The rules in total take up, I think it was about 12 pages, which seems good to me. There's some good stuff in here. There's some good flavour. You've got all of your factions in here, or at least the factions that have been mentioned so far, with full rules and costs for everything. You'll be pleased to know that unlike 40k these days, all of the war gear has costs. There's loads of it, right the way down to things like trench knives and gas grenades, relics, all sorts of things. Yeah, it all looks pretty cool. And when you look at your stat line, you are literally looking at sort of a movement, ranged, melee, armor, and base. And yeah, I think this looks like a really cool system. It uses a keyword system, so it's just more or less universal special rules. And again, I recommend, I'll put a link in the video, that you have a good look at these rules, because they look cool. And again, the artwork. I mean, look at that. I love the artwork in this thing. I think it's just amazing. Look at that. Look at that dude with the middle all eaten away. Really like this. So that's Trench Crusade. It's coming out as a Kickstarter late in the year, as I say. I will probably be backing this, provided the postage and the VAT and all that kind of crap doesn't go absolutely insane. I think I'm likely to back this. This looks really, really cool. I love what's been put into it. I love the attention to detail. The setting is really cool. You've literally got your circles of hell. You've got Earth. That's it. And the thing I really like about this is it's set during the First World War. So that is set as a historical thing, more or less. Not going to be any real modern politics coming into this game. It is what it is. It's set. It's grimdark. It's nasty. Heaven versus hell. Let's get on to what's going on with Trench Crusade at the moment. So we all know that although there are people who are sort of rabidly trying to excise the grimdark and have everything being inclusive and all that kind of stuff, in this game there are women. It says men and women nearly every single time, but it's sort of the badass. They're fighting for the Lord. It's not in any way a feminist game. It's not a feminist game. There's no feminine ideology or feminine kind of sensibilities in this at all. It is just nasty, grimdark, World War One, brutal as fuck, torture, sacrifice, all that kind of stuff. One of the problems with the Trench Crusade recently is it was hosted on a Discord. It was very Discord server that was very woke. Any wrong think or anything like that on there was just getting excised. And Trench Crusade has now set up its own Discord, and hopefully that's going to change. But what I'm imploring here, as somebody who doesn't even really sit on the right or the left, I like to think of myself as a sane person who just sits in the middle, wants to play some brutal fucking games and not have politics interfere with my enjoyment, my escapism. You had people going on there and saying shit like, oh, I'm so glad this isn't going to have femarines in it. All that does is just rile up the fucking left side, and then they're like, oh, I want pride, fucking trench troopers and all that kind of stuff. And then the people who don't agree with that then get fucking labelled as Nazis and then booted out. Just fucking leave it, all right? We've got a cool setting here. Hopefully they will resist screams from the more liberal side that they want it changed. Hopefully they'll say fuck off, it's World War One, there's no place for any of that kind of hit. This is fucking brutal, we're not watering down the setting, and hopefully that's what happens. But at the same time, people on the other side, just let it be. We've got what looks like a really cool setting here, some sick artwork, hopefully translates to some nice models, and what I think is a pretty cool looking game. So don't go riling people up. Don't make it difficult for Tuomas and Mike, who created the whole thing, Mike Francina. Just let it be. Let it launch. Don't bring all the fucking politics into it. We don't want any new, real world politics into this. It's got its setting, 1917, post-Crusade, religious militants versus the forces of hell. We've got a proper fucked up Nurgle in there. We've got blood magic. We've got Janissaries. It all looks really cool. So don't let this turn into another shit show like the 40k one has. That goes to both sides. Just get into the game, and if people want to do headcanon, they've got fucking rainbow trench troopers running around. Okay, I don't give a flying fuck. It's your headcanon. Do what you want. Just don't try and make them change the game. They've said this is mature. They ain't watering it down. It ain't for kids. It's not meant to be super fucking accessible. It's something that they've invented, and I'm hoping that it stays grimdark as fuck and it gives us a nice alternate to 40k. Rant over. I would thoroughly recommend that you check Trench Crusade out. It looks awesome. It really does. It looks grimdark as fuck. I like the rules, and I think the whole setting, the artwork, the atmosphere of it is very cool, and I very much look forward to the Kickstarter, finding out a lot more about it, and hopefully getting stuck in to painting some sick looking models with plenty of streak and grime. So till next time, I've been Al, Grumpy Grognard Gaming, and I'll see you later.